I just wanted to make sure I covered like my thoughts around the 2019 Mr. Olympia. I'm not exactly even sure how many Mr. Olympias I've been to. The first one I went to, I was 20 years old. I'm 34 now. I did miss a couple years, so I'm going to guess maybe 11 or so years. So I've been around the block a few times for the Olympia Expo. So just like last year, I want to kind of share my thoughts and kind of add to the conversation because I have been seeing both good and bad. I'd say mostly bad, but that is coming from the business side of the industry, the sports nutrition industry. And I've been hearing headlines like the Mr. Olympia Expo is dead. And I've been hearing a ton of people talk about the Rock's new event in Atlanta, I think in 2020, called Athleticon. They're saying that's going to be the event. I don't think there's any details that are really out there. I think it's just a matter of people being super bullish on The Rock in general, his brand, his ability to think creatively and fuse something different into a fitness event. And people are saying if that event does really well, that is essentially maybe the nail in the coffin for the Olympia event. And what I hear more than anything is a ton of complaining. And like normal, I don't hear many people offering up solutions. I hate when people complain or they rant or whatever and they have absolutely no idea how to fix the actual problem. Now, I'm not saying that I have the answers, but what I'm saying is hopefully you guys will get a sense that I'm thinking about this problem, hopefully offering up some solutions. The powers that be, listen to this. I know I've put out some feelers with a lot of people that are friends with the powers to be at the Mr. Olympia that have really close relationships with them to put a lot of this kind of stuff in their ears. But let me just kind of break down some raw thoughts before I jump into some of the stakeholder point of views. You guys know I like to kind of look at this from all different directions. So this is just my feeling. I was in attendance on Friday for the expo. I walked around a lot, actually a lot more than I normally do just because I wanted to get a really good sense of everything. My feeling was that there was definitely a lot less brand involvement. It felt bare. It just kind of seemed like there wasn't as much involvement from a total number or total square footage used in the Las Vegas Convention Center. I felt like there was less energy overall. I'm going to attribute a lot of that to Bang Energy not being there. If you guys have been to a fitness expo lately, you guys know they bring a lot of energy. They take up a lot of space as well, and they have dancing, guys and girls. They kind of create like a little bit of a party atmosphere within the trade show. So that's something that was surely missed at this year's Olympia. From the 11 or so Mr. Olympias that I've been to, I have not really noticed much from a differentiation standpoint, which is a complete problem. I, being on the business side of the industry, I have to continue to keep going. My potential clients are there, just people in the industry. I have to shake hands, kiss babies, as I like to say. I'm not sure a lot of business gets done during that weekend, but what I'll say is you have to kind of show up. So I continue to show up. But on the other hand, like consumers, they don't necessarily have to continue to come back if the experience is similar. Now, if they really love the experience of the Mr. Olympia, they're going to keep coming back because it's consistent. There is a diminishing returns to that. And if a consumer has went maybe 1 year or 2 years and it's been the same, they might not come back again because they're expecting, hey, I've already experienced this, I've already tried this. I'd rather put my money towards something else, experience something different. I also noticed, and I honestly expected this, a lack of creativity from exhibitors. And that is 99.9% of the exhibitors that were there. They basically just did the same thing they always do, and they expected to get different results. Didn't happen, never happens. Don't know why they continue to think that way. I believe there needs to be a shift from the Olympia owners in terms of how they're thinking about this event. They need to tear this down, rebuild it. And I believe that the onus is on both sides. I think it's on the exhibitor side, the brand side, that is not creating an engaging experience. I think it's the Olympia event owners that are not creating expectations, not building up an event, an experience around those exhibitors to really help them flourish. But I believe this is creating a missed opportunity that is not capturing a true experience that will drive people to Vegas each year for this celebration of fitness and all things fitness and health. Bodybuilding and sports nutrition is no longer this hardcore underground niche that has held the industry down for a long period of time. You need to think broader. You need to think more mainstream and more health and fitness lifestyle. The faster everybody realizes this, the better we'll be off. no longer stick to the shadows of this hardcore underground movement. It is much bigger than that, and there's an opportunity, a big opportunity that's getting missed by all sides. Now I'm going to look at the consumer side here, I'm going to look at the business side, and then I'm going to look at just the Olympia perspective. From the consumer side, I mean, if I took myself from the business side and just went back to being a consumer, I'm not sure I would notice that there was all that much different in this year's Olympia over other years. Like I said before, that could be good or bad depending on how you view the experience that you get at the Olympia Expo. I don't want to speak about the Olympia, the bodybuilding event, because honestly I don't go to it, I never go to it. I don't think a lot of people go to it. I know they sold out and they did really well, but if you take a percentage of the people that go to the Olympia Expo weekend, just festivities that are going on, and you take just who attended the actual bodybuilding show, very small percentage. So I'm only speaking to the expo part of this. The consumers, got a pretty typical experience that they normally get at an Olympia. They got to meet and greet athletes or influencers that they're connected to. They got to try new products, and either they got to take home a bunch of free swag if that was the reason why they came in there, or they got to maybe buy products that they love, or maybe they just learned to love at that event and they got some really good deals on it. Regardless if there was some minor maybe difficulties or experience losses that came from a consumer, Las Vegas is probably the best backdrop that you can have in terms of washing all those issues away. And if you go to the Mr. Olympia and you go to Vegas and you spend those 2 or 3 nights that you're there partying a bunch and trying to just burn the candle at both ends, I guess you could say, you know that a lot of the details are fuzzy because you aren't necessarily in this super clear-minded state. So that helps from the consumer side, the Mr. Olympia show, because a lot of maybe the minor things that maybe are noticed in a Columbus, Ohio, where there's not a lot of the other side, the party side of that weekend, not to say that there isn't, but not as much, you notice those things a lot more than you do at the Olympia in Las Vegas. Now, let's cover the business point of view here, and by far this is where the biggest complainers are at, yet it's also where the least action and onus of the issue is at. I am amazed at how many people complain yet offer up no solutions to the problem. But yet they continue to either go each year, exhibit each year, or maybe they just don't show up anymore and never really open up their mouth to help the situation. I thought overall there was a lack of creativity by exhibitors. As always, each of them builds a square or they build a rectangle, throw up some tables or some cases for product. They throw some TVs on the wall, or they build a big TV wall. They throw music on or a DJ at the booth. They have cases of product, maybe live or just for sale, and they think they're going to get a different result than they do previously. Yet, if you continue to do the same thing, you're going to get the same result. It's not going to change anything. People are not going to remember you. It's basically just throwing money down the drain. For whatever reason, people are not wrapping their heads around that you don't need to completely reach every single attendee. You need to create a very strong impact in a percentage of the attendees. Say something like 10%. If the Olympia had 50,000 people that came through the expo doors, you got 10% of those customers and really had a deep impact. Really showed your brand through a strong activation that was experiential, that really got people to deep dive into your brand. That 5,000 people, say just random number, you get $150 to $200 of customer lifetime value out of those 5,000 people that get a massive impact, experience your brand on a deep level. You're gonna get a return
$750,000 to $1 million, which easily pays for the Olympia weekend. Yet, instead, most brands are focused solely on trying to be everything to everyone, which leaves them providing no meaningful value to anybody.
What you need to consider is there's some other additional things that come out with this. Now, out of those 5,000 people that you gave them a strong impact, now they might become a brand advocate. They might become a loyal brand advocate. They might be out there spreading the love of your brand, getting people to buy your brand. Those people then have a customer lifetime value. So all of a sudden you get some compounding effect by some of these 5,000, 10% of the expo goers. Now, you also throw in some non-revenue, indirect type of benefits as long as you're throwing those strategies into your booth. Those things could be with different tactics to create digital impression outside of those four walls to increase the exposure of your brand, your event. Maybe some live sampling feedback to help your brand out long term. You can have athlete meetups and a bunch of different other things that might help indirectly build up brand equity over the short and the long term. And while I'm talking about live sampling, I find live sampling to be interesting because though it's extremely important to maybe bring people into the booth, you want people to experience your product, regardless if they're going to experience 500 other products throughout the weekend and they're not going to remember it at all. What people forget is that last point when I'm talking about that people are not going to really remember your sample out of the 5,000 samples, unless maybe it was so mind-blowing that it left a lasting impression in the customer. What brands are not doing with live sampling is helping them with some aspects of testing, creating a feedback loop, helping them understand something about their business that only live sampling will give them. Instead of sales guys, girls, actively engaging with the people that are tasting the product, they're looking cool, they're talking to the models aren't working correctly, everything is just basically a clusterfuck, and nobody's doing anything. You're missing a ton of opportunity by doing that live sampling. You need to utilize live sampling correctly. For whatever reason, a lot of laziness happens on the brand side, yet they expect the Mr. Olympia event to be better for them. Yet they're not doing anything on their part to help overall themselves or the industry in the event. Now let's talk about the event overall, the Olympia. Said this before, things need to change. I understand this is the pinnacle of a bodybuilding event. I understand that people go there to body worship or whatever kind of weird reasons they go to that event. But overall, the market as a whole, the buyers of products, which specifically right now, you have a ton of sports nutrition brands, those customers are much different. They are not bodybuilders anymore. This is not some underground niche. They have shifted to lifestyle and mainstream buyers, yet you're not putting on an experience for the mainstream lifestyle consumer. And to me, that means everything needs to be completely tore down and rebuilt. First action that I would kind of take here is that I would rebrand the overall event, the weekend. Now, I wouldn't change the Mr. Olympia or the Olympia, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they call the bikini girl the Mr. Olympia or if it's Miss Olympia or whatever it is. But essentially, the bodybuilding event needs to stand alone. It needs to be its own thing. I understand the heritage. I understand all of that. I don't want to break that. But you need to expand and rebrand the overall weekend, be more inclusive to the fitness and health community as a whole, the lifestyle mainstream consumers that are driving the overall growth of this healthy lifestyle movement. Now, if you want to continue to focus on maybe sports nutrition type of brands, you need to make sure you're catering to the ones that either have very strong experiential marketing or have a very close connection with their customers. So having a Bang Energy or a Ghost Lifestyle not at the event is terrible. Something like an Alani Nu or even a G Fuel, and having them have such close connections with their consumers and not be there is not going to work. You need to figure out some way to bridge that connection with them. And whatever you need to do to get them there, you get them there because that's going to drive people into the expo. Now, saying about the rebrand and broadening the inclusivity of the event, I would broaden the idea of what we consider fitness. Get away from this idea of bodybuilding only and get into an aspect of an adult-only Arnold Sports Festival type of programming. I say that because the Arnold Classic has these very massive numbers that go through the event doors and tickets and everything like that. But what I think a lot of people forget is that a lot of those events are like child type events where you have a lot of parents, you have a lot of family members. So those numbers are very bloated. But you take that mentality of bringing a broadness to fitness sport and you take that and apply it in a Vegas way, on brand for Vegas, apply it in a way that really creates an experience that is super unique to Las Vegas, that does not seem to connect with the Arnold Classic in Columbus, but is so much bigger, such a more exciting event, especially for adults, to come out to Vegas and enjoy a weekend about fitness. Now, talking about the experiences overall and just broadening the experience of that weekend. I would be focusing on events that are on site at the convention center, maybe around the convention center. Create a lot of events that kind of build on the expo. So don't just lean on the expo and just lean on maybe the bodybuilding show and that's it. There's a ton of opportunity that can be created with Vegas as a backdrop and having so many different spaces to host things, have brands host things in a Olympia type of an environment. And you can see this when you even go to something like an Expo West, where there's breakfast yoga, there's lunch and learns, there's other aspects that help. Now, you can apply those in a consumer sense, not in a business sense, but you can also apply business things in a consumer sense as well. Maybe some lunch and learns, not necessarily about the industry, the business side of it, but just maybe how to be a fitness influencer, maybe how to properly eat right to be a bodybuilder. A lot of the education piece that can be online is definitely online, it's getting consumed online, but take it in an analog sense that you can also interact with your favorite fitness celebrities and personalities. And just to talk about some additional broadening and things that I would be focusing on, I've broadened categories in which exhibitors come from. So like maybe a FIBO in Germany, I would start to build on just the sports nutrition. That should just be a small piece of the overall expo experience. If you think about some of the categories I'm about to talk about, it is a small category compared to some of these categories, and you should have a bigger brand collection from some of these fitness ancillary type of categories. So what I'm talking about here is maybe some fitness equipment, maybe some fitness technology companies that could create some experiential things, have people activate with their fitness technology in a similar sense to like a CES. I'm talking about non-industry apparel and shoe companies. Can you attract a Nike? Can you attract an Under Armour? Can you attract a Adidas? Things like that. Can you? Yes, you just have not put together an event that is attractive to those brands. Also, you have an Expo East, Expo West issue with the Arnold and the Olympia now. For some reason, those things are being very close together, either the week of or the week after. But you need to figure out a way to attract better for you, healthier for you, food, beverage, personal care, beauty brands that can broaden just the people that would come in the door. They get to experience more things than just supplement powders and capsules and pills, and get them into a whole holistic wellness, health, and fitness mentality. If they can experience all of those things together as a consumer, it helps create a more lasting experience that can bring people in the door from a multitude of different backgrounds or intents to get into this overall more broadened fitness and healthy lifestyle. And though this is a very minor thing, this is probably more of like a personal ask, is that I would hope that the Olympia understands the ecosystem that is built around the business side. It seems to be that the business side is kind of thrown to the Renaissance or maybe some other meeting rooms across Las Vegas, and they're not really thrown too much love. So I'm saying there's some mechanisms and things that you could do to improve the overall value generation of the business side that might bring more people in, that might bring more attention to the overall weekend, might create more investment opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, a lot of other money-making areas that could be created by focusing a little bit of attention towards the business side of the industry. I'm not saying that that needs to be a big portion of the weekend, but it would be great because the Arnold, again, does not focus on that. You have something like a Supply Side West that has some type of programming, but very few outside of the ingredient portion of it. So there's some opportunity there for an event to really wrap their arms around the industry and show it some love and create some revenue out of it, but also create some love of the event that will bring people back each year. So I know that was not as short of thoughts as you guys probably anticipated. Hopefully you guys stuck it through. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you also have some thoughts around the event, the Mr. Olympia, or just fitness events in general, drop me a line. I would love to hear about it. Would love to engage with you on this topic. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly, and if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.